for coming here on a Sunday afternoon where you're probably sleeping or actually moving. My name is Haeryun Kang, and I'm the managing editor of Korea Expose, which is a journalism startup based in Seoul. Thanks for taking your time again to listen to me speak. I hope it's a meaningful time, although I can't make any guarantees. I want to start my presentation. That's not a slide that I put in, but here I am. Okay. I want to start my presentation with a typical scene at the Korea Expose office in Changchungdong, Seoul. Look at all these young people, so focused. They're working hard, hopefully not Facebooking. They're probably, writing an article, editing other people's stories, or looking for telephone numbers of contacts they can reach out to. We share an office with other media startups in Seoul who are mostly young, like we are. And the space is airy, it's bright, it's pretty. There's a lot of snacks, coffee, pretty cushions, and posters at the back. It's a wonderful environment to work creatively in. But at the same time, it's a sort of environment where our survival is always in question. So we're always thinking about our survival, not in terms of years, but in terms of months and seasons. We're always talking about, are we going to be alive next month, in the winter, in the fall? Who knows? So I was thinking about, for someone who works in such an uncertain environment like mine, a media startup, what it means to be a salmon, to attempt to swim upstream and hopefully reach that ultimate destination of the top of the river and make thousands of salmon babies. And I think my thesis is basically that, being a salmon as a media startup, and maybe in general, is to live with constant doom, disaster, and death. And hopefully with a sense of humor, because you don't want to succumb to these duties. Okay. So, in order to tell you a little bit about the environment that I'm in, I want to explain to you the media startup that I work in. Korea Expose, our motto is basically showing Korea as it really is. I don't know how many of you read the news and how much, but how many of you are familiar with the New York Times? I assume everybody. NPR, Washington Post. How about Korean-owned English dailies like Korea Herald, Korea Times, 중앙일보, right? So Korea Expose was created because there's a definite hole in the way these two types of media outlets report on South Korean news. And let me tell you what that means. Foreign media outlets like New York Times and NPR, they're amazing at providing easy, accessible context for readers who don't understand the issue. They're good at storytelling. But on the other hand, they're limited by their home audience, so there's a limit to how much, how deeply and how widely they can talk about South Korea. So that means their typical narratives are limited to popular topics like North Korea, Samsung, K-pop, plastic surgery, or something sensational, Weird Asia. On the other hand, you have the English dailies that are owned by Korean companies who are much more flexible in the type of stories they can cover, but their storytelling is not always good. Their writing is not always good. Their reporting is not always good. And a lot of the times they translate the Korean news into English so that the kind of context they provide is not very understandable for someone like, for example, in Texas. And that's the hole that Korea Expose aims to fill. So we basically want to cover a wide range of stories, but also do it with good context and good storytelling. We want writers, young writers, old writers, who understand Korea deeply, who are not just foreign correspondents coming in for a week to cover something funny about Korea. We want someone who can provide a critical perspective. And that's the kind of work we do, and that's what we've been doing, I dare say, pretty well. And these are the kind of stories that we do tell. 개저씨 must die, one of our most popular articles. Who knows what 개저씨 is? So 개저씨 basically refers to 아저씨s who have this sense of entitlement and embedded sense of patriarchy and hierarchy. This article is not literally saying that these 아저씨s must die. it's saying that, you know, the culture of male-centered entitlement has to die. And this was a popular article because it took one single word that foreigners aren't necessarily familiar with and showed why this is so emblematic of South Korean society. And there are other stories like Goshite. This was a very popular photo essay about a guy who's living in Goshite. Damunhwa, a Congolese refugee, was criticizing South Korea's unilateral idea of multiculturalism, which is not actually multiculturalism. We discuss South Korean journalism, ethical dilemmas that they face, especially during the Cheongshin crisis. You know, have you guys heard of Hukbong? Right. So we talk about South Korea's obsession with nationalism. These are some of the things that we cover, and this is our team. And let me just brag here, we've been covered by a lot of different media outlets and cited by big ones, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post, from all over the world. And so in a sense, if you look at our portfolio and our resume, you can say that we are maturing as a salmon, to bring us back to the subject at the top. And I can portray myself similarly, let me portray myself as a maturing salmon. I started out as a news assistant at NPR Seoul Bureau, and for 2 years I went to different demonstrations, I conducted interviews, I went to government press conferences, and sometimes I drank soju. And back then, I called myself a baby journalist because I was taking baby steps, and now I'm a managing editor at Korea Expose. I manage different employees, I edit stories, I have a responsibility in what goes out and what doesn't, and I have a lot of responsibility. And I also provide commentary for big media outlets like BBC and Al Jazeera, and I contribute to The Guardian on North Korea issues, yada 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 yada. And by this point you're all thinking, okay, shut up already, we get it, you're impressive. Well, I am not over yet. So look at our team, it is an impressive crowd of people and a lot of talented people, and I do have a lot of admiration and love for the people that I work with. Haeryun, our founder, did his PhD at Stanford University and contributes regularly to the New York Times. Stephen Borowick, our politics editor, he's a seasoned journalist who's covered Korea for nearly a decade, writing for publications like Time Magazine, Al Jazeera, blah, 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 blah. And I look at this, and I look at all of our titles and our identities, and I think, man, it looks like we have our shit together. It looks like we have an identity. We know what we're doing. We know our place in the world. Now, my aim is certainly not to deny that, we deserve some of our success and this impressiveness. What is going on here? Oh, sorry about that. Dun, dun. Okay. We all work hard and we love what we do, and I think the amount of success and recognition that we've achieved is merited. But, this is a picture of our startup environment. These are all the other young startups out here, having a good time, taking a picture. And it's fun. It's what we do every day. It's the kind of environment that we breathe in. But a picture like this also doesn't capture the kind of gloom and darkness that we also actually experience every day. Existential crisis. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. The perennial question of, where are we going? Who are we? Are we really living? If we're alive, are we going to be alive next month, next year, in 2 years? And basically, in startup speak, all these questions translate into money. Money, money, money. Welcome to the world of startups, especially media startups, where people are always concerned about money. I say especially media startups because you guys have probably heard this common phrase over and over, that the media industry is dying. I mean, I don't agree with this oversimplification because in the age of the internet, I think the internet has actually energized the media to try all sorts of different storytelling on different platforms that wouldn't have been possible in the 20th century. But it is true that the internet has drastically created financial losses to different media outlets. Local, big, startups, New York Times, South Korean media, foreign media, what have you. Nobody's exempt from this, and the entire media industry is always worried about the money. And if big media outlets like 중앙일보 are suffering, then startups like Korea Expose definitely have it worse. Sorry about that. You can just look at my pretty face while I gather the paper. Okay. So, let me give you a kind of a brief overview of the financial situation that Korea Expose is in. We currently finished a first phase of investment where we got seed money from our incubators for a couple of months to cover operation. Now the investment period is over and we have employees who want to pay their bills, who want to raise their families, who want to go to movies. So we're thinking about, okay, how can we do this? We need another round of investment, so that's what we're preparing for now. But we can't just live on investment because we want to be an independent media company. So what are we going to do to develop a sustainable business model? Okay, how much revenue do we get from ads? Not that much. So what do? We go for sponsor content because all the newspapers in the world are doing sponsor content. So how do we do it, and how do we do it so that it doesn't hurt the reader experience? And, we tried this business model and that business model, and this is one of the, more successful ventures, the journalism school that we did this summer, and Seoul foreign school students really love doing it, and we're doing it again in the winter, which, by the way, to do a little promotion, if you guys are interested. But basically, I'm just saying all this to say that we're always thinking about money, and that behind this, we have this positive experience of being creative and working as a startup and loving what we do. But on the other side, you have to look at two sides of the coin. We're always also worried about our existence. And I'm trying to say that, you guys don't just be impressed by the portfolio and the resume that we have. Look beyond that. Look beyond our titles. We don't always have our shit together. We're not always in control. And that's not just about media startup. It's about the New York Times. It's about you guys. It's about your parents. It's kind of the secret, non-secret of becoming an adult, being a salmon, so to speak. Everyone presents this face of being in control, but rarely anyone is. We're all just trying to keep from drowning before you reach the top of the stream. And I see very somber faces, kind of depressed. And I know this sounds pretty bleak, but let me ask you this. How many of you get asked the question, what are you going to do with your lives? Especially the seniors, how many times do your parents say, what is your job going to be? Career trajectory. Who are you going to become? I hate that question. I always had a problem with this question because it assumes that someday we're going to be these salmons that arrive, somewhere successful. It assumes that, like the salmons, we know where we're going, some sort of final destination or some vision of success. But as I said, life is full of doom, disaster, and death, and a lot of confusion. Most of you at one point or another in your lives are going to be unemployed, even if you go to Harvard. When I was younger, forgive me for this racist picture culturally appropriating Native Americans. But when I was younger, I used to think of myself in terms of being a salmon, especially when I was in high school. I dreamed of arriving somewhere permanent and stable, being some sort of final product, some final successful identity, like that sometime in my life I'm going to have a moment of self-realization. So needless to say, because I thought about life in these terms, when I was in high school especially, I was terrified with the idea of being confused about one day being unemployed, which, happens sometimes in my life. But this fear of not being successful, was actually the biggest roadblock to figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, what I loved, and how I could find what I loved. Basically, what I want to argue with my presentation today is that we have to stop thinking of ourselves in terms of salmonhood if we really want to be mature. Working at TEDxYouth is definitely teaching me to let go of this final destination, this vision of success. This illusion of control and success is just not there for most of us, and that's fine. At TEDxYouth, we work with famous media personalities who are swimming in multiple different directions at once. But are they doing this because they think one of these directions is going to give them the salmonhood? I doubt they even believe in the idea, And if you look at my father, he's kind of the epitome of a mature salmon who's reached kind of the top of the river. If you look at his resume, he's a successful corporate employee who's worked in this job for 30 years. He's financially successful. He's socially respected. But look at the next few years. He's going to retire. The currents in his life are going to change dramatically, and he doesn't know what the hell he's going to do with his life. So does that mean that he's not a salmon anymore? He has to start from the bottom of the stream and go up? Well, what if that means he is? Why does that matter? We're always kind of swimming sideways and down and deeper and in a lake or whatever. So hang with me, guys. I'm nearly done with my presentation. What the hell? Whoa. Okay, you guys can go home now. Okay, I'll try to wrap it up quickly. What I want to say is I don't want to be patronizing about this. I don't want you guys to not have a vision of success or what you guys want to become. Or whatever you want to do and believe that you're going to find something you're passionate about and be successful doing it. But what I'm saying is that don't be discouraged if you don't have that idea. Don't be obsessed by that idea because a lot of people don't. And a lot of the times these visions of success that you have at this moment are going to change so dramatically by the time you're my age in 10 years. That, these ideas are not really going to matter. You think you're swimming upstream, but you may be in a lake. And you may be fine with it. You may die tomorrow because of North Korea. Knock on wood. I guess what I want to say is that you shouldn't be afraid of never being a salmon. You shouldn't be afraid of never reaching that top of the river and making thousands of salmon babies. People have different lives. People have different ideas of success. And the biggest problem with Korean society is that the idea of success is so conformist. I think what's more important, rather than this idea of success in salmonhood, is this ability, cultivating this ability to embrace this doom, disaster, and death, and not being afraid of uncertainty, and having a good sense of humor while you're at it, because that's going to make you have fun with it. Thank you very much.